Right. I'm actually ready and waiting as well, so we might as well get started, right? Apparently giving myself 14, 15 minutes was a little bit overdoing it. Anyway. Hi there. It's been a while. I've been busy. Work. A little bit of hospital. Nothing serious. Just had some appointments. And I've been working on the like the Huxlip log parsing thing a little bit. So last time I showed you that the parser was a lot better. I just quickly want to share my progress, and we're not actually going to work on it tonight because, well, I'll explain. I had the parser is working a lot better, and then I was trying to download all of the past logs. So that's several gigabytes of logs. It's almost 10,000 logs, I think, if I see this correctly. No, wait, almost 100,000 logs. So it adds up quite quickly. Hey there, Adolf. Glad to see you. And I kept getting random timeouts. Like my script was, it was blowing up. It was, I'm not sure where either in the download, but I suspect in the parsing that sometimes it's just one parse, and it wasn't always consistent. It just sometimes it blew up in memory usage until the entire Docker container just crashed and processes crashed, and I just couldn't. It would kill itself without even giving an error after a while. Like not even a like an out of memory error or something, just killed. That was all it said. Just the most helpful error message ever. So I've been playing around with lots of different ways of trying to queue them up, have workers and everything, and finally I ended up on a worker farm package, which basically does multi-threading by just spawning a bunch of extra node processes, and then it also keeps those node processes alive, or it checks like, do they actually return a value in a reasonable amount of time? And if they don't, it kills them. And that's been great, because I can just kill whatever is looking like it's not going to finish, because they should be finishing in 3-4 seconds, so if they take 20 seconds, they're probably going to crash. That's that makes a lot more sense because okay, cool. So what should we call you now, Higgs? Anyway, welcome to the stream. So this is actually my work computer is running and downloading, and I can see the logs here because it's on a share file system. So it is running into quite a few timeouts, which is when it's going to kill the worker and then try again. I just quickly want to see if it's timing out on different ones. So let's just quickly see if there's... No, that's a unique one at least. Yeah, so, I mean, most of these look like they're unique. If they time out 5 times, I'll give up on them, and otherwise I'll just keep trying. Yeah. Got a few more parse errors as well, so if anything fails to parse, it gets logged in here. There's a couple of special cases. Some people actually uploaded their platform information, which I don't handle when they do that. So if you look at the logs there, it actually gives like information about which system they are using or whatever. I kind of forgot to implement this bit, because by default this is disabled, it's anonymized, and then you don't get to see this kind of stuff. So I need to go over the parser a little bit to fix that. There's another one that if there's only one Harmony version present, it gets shown in a different way, because then you get the mod name first and then the version, which is just weird. And apparently it's possible for your game to be so fucked up that Harmony can't even check its own patches anymore, and then instead of a patch list you'll just get an exception saying that there was an exception trying to get the list of patches. I think if you arrived at that point, no output log is going to help you anymore anyway, you just need to restart. But yeah. So that's downloading, that's putting everything in the database. Now my next problem is going to be that the database actually gets too big. So I'm currently storing every single time I see a mod with a timestamp. But that leads to like a mod table of millions of records. I do not have powerful enough database like servers or whatever to actually make that respond in a decent time. So I need to get clever about how I'm actually going to store this. So I think I'm going to have to store just like a number for each day and just increment the number whenever I see a mod for that given day. And then I can just use that to like show mods over time and stuff like that, and hopefully still get some information out of that, but not store everything, which is just, well, I'm also going to run into space troubles pretty quickly because I think I have 4 gigs on my cheapo virtual host cloud server thingy. So yeah, there's that too. Anyway, that was just a quick update. That's not what I'm actually going to do tonight. What I wanted to do tonight is actually mod a little bit. Because it's been a while and I haven't had any new issues, and all the existing issues looked kind of boring and I didn't want to get started on them. So I figured I'd shelve off some of my old projects. So let me just quickly get rid of this one. So I have several mods that I've been sort of working on, ideas that are half finished or finished to some degree, and there's 2 in particular that I've talked about, one that I've shown a little bit as well, and that I would like to finish, put some polish on it, and see if I can put it out on Steam. Yeah. So there's the power cleaner, which is more or less kind of done in its current form. It needs a little bit of polishing, maybe some sound effect or something, and then I think as itself it's pretty much good to go. I mean, it needs, I want to expand on it. There's so much more I want to do with it, but for now I think I need to just release it as it is and then add more things as we go and see if people actually like it and what kind of ideas people come up with, and not get hung up on trying to make it perfect before it's actually seen any public use. There's the save loader, which is it's a tiny utility. I'm not going to work on it, but that's supposed to work together with my like out of game mod manager, which is also still a work in progress, but I also don't feel like working on that one. You can download this, by the way. It's all on my GitHub. It works. It's just not perfect yet. But the idea for this is that you can immediately boot into a save game. And then you need a little mod to just make it possible for you to add a save game name as like it basically just uses it as a command line parameter, and then it boots into that. So you can, yeah, click on any of these, and it would first load the list of mods that you used in that save game, and then it would load that save game. So you don't have to go into the game to change your mod list and reload it and whatever. It should be quite useful. I think that's actually working. I just need to set it up in the in my mod manager that it like automatically injects that when it's needed. But yeah. Anyway, there's spatial priority, which I've talked about a little bit, and the idea is that it's an oxygen not included like system of priorities by zone. So you basically have a couple of new designators which you can just drag on the floor, and you can give it a priority from 1 to 9, and then like the priorities within a work type, as long as they're equal. So if you for example, you've given all of the jobs in the cooking work type have priority 3, then you can designate a particular area to be higher priority, and then they will do jobs in that area before they will do any of the other jobs in the cooking priority. We'll look at the code later, and it's half working, so we can also look at it in game. And finally, well, I think it doesn't work, but I can at least show you the idea because I think it works in a little bit. This was my this is work tab 2 for lack of a better name. It's my attempt at trying to create a completely different way of doing the work tab. Let's. I wanna look at that quickly first. So let's quickly get that into my game. Interesting. I've updated my npm version, so now it's forgotten all of the packages I have linked, and my release script is one of those packages. So my release script doesn't work anymore. Lots of vulnerabilities apparently. But yeah, mod is now linked to this post-build script. Good. If you have any bugger. I was pretty sure this built. Apparently not. We can have a closer look. If you have any preference on like what you'd like me to see me work at, or yeah, just in general the ideas or things, then please do tell. I'm always open to suggestions. Ooh. Oh, that's not very good. I got some very fancy coffee for my birthday. It's very... it smells like it's burned. That's a very dark roast. Oof. I'm pretty sure my brother-in-law isn't looking. If you are, sorry. Why am I not... is this not actually in a repository yet? I guess not. Ooh. Right, this is probably just not linked up correctly. Yeah, there we go. Right, that's an easy fix. So we need to link it to the correct version DLLs. Alright. Turn your sound off for a minute. My mouse is breaking down. I need to slam it for it to work again. So this, you may hear this. Sorry. No! You were working. Alright, it's working again. I'll get a new one soon. Sorry about that. Terribly sorry about that. Yes, I very much do. Hi, Philip. Glad to... I'm just going to call you Philip, if that's okay. Nice for joining. Wow, words are hard. How nice of you to join us. Yeah, I'm feeling this. I want to put this stuff out. It's actually a Logitech one. It's a G403. It's like a basic but decent model, and it's wired because I absolutely hate wireless mice. They always tend to run out of batteries at the worst possible moment. But it was extra cheap because it was a refurb, but I guess it wasn't refurbed very well. Yeah. I think I should be using that one. And the assembly C# as well. I used to have like an MX1000 or something. I forget the actual number, and I absolutely love that thing. I actually bought like another one, and Like for when it broke, I would just have a backup. I think I gave it away at some point because it just never seemed to break. And then it did break, obviously. So is the G502 any good? Maybe I'll get that as a replacement. Anyway, this now seems to have built, so that's a good start. So let's put that in our game. Is that building as work tab? Probably. Should probably make it build as something else. Yeah, it's going to a different folder, but it's probably calling itself work tab. Well, we'll find out soon enough. That's one of the things I liked about the MX. Like it was shaped, but like comfortably shaped, and it was heavy. But like now you can only find all the shaped mice are like the gaming mice, which are like ridiculously with like angles and shit. It's like no, bad. I just want a nice, heavy, big mouse. Yeah, this is definitely not the correct one. Say there should be a mod config here. And this should be work tab 2. Why was that not in my lists? Because it's not in my list. Let me guess, this is still copying to some sort of ancient version or something? No. It's taking long, that's usually not a good sign. Ooh, it's doing stuff. Ooh, maybe I should get the G502. It is pretty on the light end, but I have beefy hands, lots of mice are for me. Yeah, same here. It's like I'm kind of already too big for my mouse. Like I'm hanging over it already, and that's what I liked about the MX1000 as well. It was really chunky. Right. Let's try that again. There we go. Work tab 2. Much better. Newer is always better, right? Okay. I may not be able to show you work tab 2. I thought it was at least booting. I knew that it wasn't like actually working in game, but I thought I could at least show you the UI for it. But it's crashing. That doesn't even look like it's my... I'm not getting an output log, and it's also not giving me a crash log. So I'm not entirely sure what happened there. But it's definitely crashing to desktop on load. But it is like auto-generating a map, so maybe I should... Okay, there's definitely a translation missing somewhere. Oh, I still have multiplayer. I should probably turn that off as well. Maybe? Nah, that's what I thought. Alright, something's broken in that, clearly. Giving us anything more useful now? Bunch of deprecated target versions, restarting, deprecated target versions. Sure, whatever. Oh wait, it is doing something. Oh well, I'm not gonna bother too much in digging into that because I need to look at how it's set up first again. And I mean, if we're getting hardly any output, then that's a bad idea. I guess the patch is crashing. But this is also the log from like... I don't know which particular log this is, and I don't actually see any errors in it, so... Yeah, this is worked up too, so that should be the correct one. So this is the Harmony log. But that's just saying everything is done. So there's probably a mistake in there somewhere, but... well, I can probably just turn the patches off quickly and see what happens. It shouldn't matter all that much. Just doesn't have a post build setup. Alright, last attempt at getting to show this, and if it still doesn't work, then it doesn't work. So be it. Ooh. Alright, so it's definitely the patches, kind of what I expected. Oh. Oh, right. There we go. Right. So, completely new idea. The idea is that you can make your own jobs. You can make a new profession. You can add individual tasks from different things, and the colors on this are terrible, by the way, because it's terribly hard to read. There's not enough contrast there, but okay, that's a minor thing. So yeah, this is basically the same thing that you normally have. This is not draggable. There's so many things wrong with this, but you can create your own professions. So you can create basically on the fly your own categories. You can't rename them either, apparently, and if you try, you get terrible errors. should not have done that. Nearly quit OBS there by accident. Right, anyway. I have to say, this looks better than I remembered it, to be honest. So yeah, you can create your own professions. Let's not try to rename them this time. So for example, this profession now is, excuse me, it has a researcher and a tailor jobs in it. And then you can drag that profession into any pawns where you want it. So you can either drag it from the top and then it gets added there. You can move it around to change where it is in the priority. And you can delete it from a given pawn. There's a couple of extra icons because he has a passion for this or she. There's an average skill level for the things in there, if applicable. So a couple of extra goodies. So yeah, this was the basic idea. I'm honestly not sure why I gave up on it. No, not sure why I gave up on it anymore. The idea was also to allow you to do this in like 4 per hours. So you can have the 24-hour timetable, and then you can also have sort of like a Gantt chart where you have like your project management stuff, and you can just expand. Like you can set these, for example, this profession, and you could say like, okay, this starts at, let's say this is 4 o'clock, and then you can drag it aside and make it like go until 10 or something, and then you could have multiple different jobs underneath each other and that kind of jazz. Never got around to that. I also can't show you because I just turned off the patches, so this is not actually hooked up and it's not going to work. But yeah, that was the basic idea. It sounds a little bit self-congratulatory, but it looks a lot better than I remembered it. I got a lot further with this than I thought I did. I might work on this again somewhat. So why can't you do art? You already have it. So yeah, lots of click and drag. Actually fairly decently implemented as well, if I may say so myself. Yeah, alright. Anyway, not tonight. You thought of doing columns. Yeah, I probably shouldn't have closed it just yet, but could you explain what do you mean with columns? Because the basis of this, the idea is that you have the whole problem with the work tab is always that you have too many dimensions to put into one tab. Because you've got the particular jobs that you want to do, and then you also have the work givers, or like the subtasks in a job if you want to go that far. You have the pawns that need to do those jobs, and you have the priority with which they need to do it. And then if you would also like to have the times at which they're allowed to do it, maybe. So basically you have 4 dimensions, but you only have a 2-dimensional screen. So you can put things in rows and columns, and then the 3rd dimension is like the numbers in the cells. That's how the base game handles it, and that's exactly what the normal work tab does as well. And then the 4th dimension of time is handled with this rather abstract and sometimes hard to deal with slider ruler at the bottom where you can play with the time. The idea here was to change around with the dimensions a little bit and just play around with them. So in this case, I'm taking the priority dimension and making that a left to right thing, and like it also, yeah, the individual jobs and tasks things kind of also goes into that. So that is now one dimension as a list ordered from left to right for each pawn, instead of having one static list that you need to order by giving priorities for each pawn, if you get what I mean. Then you can have pawns still on the rows, and then you could also maybe add times on that or something, or like zoom into one pawn to have a timetable or something like that. That's the idea. But yeah, anyway, I'll keep it in mind. We may work on it again at some point, but not right now. I wanted to show you spatial priorities. Is it just priority? All right. Let's see if that works. That's probably also going to give me errors because it probably also misses the correct DLLs or assemblies. It's always going to be well, the word I was thinking of is kind of a clusterfuck. That's maybe a little bit overdoing it, but I mean, if you, the more pawns you have, the more like people play with loads of mods, and then you get loads of different sub jobs, and it will always get messy and cluttered, and just not very nice. I don't think there's terribly much we can do about that. Oh, this actually loaded, no problems. Interesting. Yeah, you're thinking of columns and priority goes down the list. You drag up and down instead of left and right. But like you already are better since more will be better managed. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I was gonna say it shouldn't be too hard to switch it from rows to columns. You could even make that a mod setting, but thinking about that, I think it's actually a lot harder than it sounds, because that completely throws your logic of how you draw it around. Yeah. Still possible though. All right. Spatial priorities. I forgot how I set this up, honestly. Oh yeah, there we go. Priority. Right, so apparently I only had 5 priorities, but that's fine. So you can set a priority, and it gets a kind of color. Normal is just nothing. Important is higher. And then finally critical. I think I also had an overlay for you to show that kind of thing, but okay. So that's the basic idea. So now you've set up the priorities. That's all there is to it. So let's spawn in some shit and then let the pawns haul it. I can show you exactly what's going to happen. Yeah, that one. I really don't care. Here, gorge from some chocolate. I should probably have put something underneath it because I already forgot where I put the zones. But let's just put something everywhere and we'll see what happens. And we'll create a massive stockpile zone there and make sure everybody is hauling, preferably nothing else, but this is the default work tab, so that's kind of annoying to set up. Right. Okay, so what we're going to see now is they're going to haul. And normally what would happen is they would just haul from the closest first. So they would haul from here to there, and then they would find, or like probably here first because this is where they are. They would haul something, put it down there, and then they would like go from there to there, and then finally this stuff. But now this is higher priority. So these ones are now actually going to get hauled first. Then these, then everything outside of the areas, then these, and then finally these ones. I really, really hope. Yeah. So that's when it works. And I was really happy. Yay, it works. No bugs. Apparently, and I haven't actually looked at this too closely, but there's a really weird bug where growing zones kind of get like quantum entangled. So if we make some growing zones here, then put different things in them. So this will be corn, hay grass, potato, and rice. So we just went from top to bottom down the list. Then they're going to plant the wrong things in the wrong areas. I should actually make them plant. Have you guys followed this? I'm not going to feed you, by the way, so let's turn that stuff off. So they don't actually expect to be fed. And they won't get cranky about it. Or apparently nobody is going to grow at all. What is something? Did I do the wrong one? Oh yeah. Oops. Yeah, thanks, Fish Brains. That's I got a comment from somebody the other day who was asking, like, am I insulting my audience? Like, you called somebody fish brains. That's not cool. And I was like, yeah, no, that's actually his name. Like, I know he isn't actually called that, but Fridge Baron is fish brains on Discord. So this actually seems to be working. But let's see what happens for the other one. So yeah, they're still planting rice now. Even though they should be planting potato in here. So what's happening, I theorized a little bit about this before, is that planting is one of these weird jobs that is looked at in batches. I haven't actually looked at it in detail yet, but I think there's something going on there. Let's take a quick refresher on what this thing is actually doing first. So this is just my simple debug logger thingy. Excuse me. I've got a designator, which is oh gosh. This is the thing that allows me to put down the priorities. So when I click it, I get a pop-up list. I'm just noticing that I'm not doing this in the proper way. This is still an old way to do it. There's now actually a built-in method to get like a different pop-up downs. Yeah, but it's taking, I think it's taking whatever is in the highest priority area and it's putting that in all the planting zones. We can let it run for a bit longer. Maybe shrink these zones a little bit. So yeah, it's basically putting whatever that was, rice, I think, everywhere. Even though this area is supposed to be corn. So yeah, not good. So I don't know what's going to happen if I take this off. Is it now going to put... Yeah, now it's going to put potatoes everywhere. Because this is now the highest priority area. Not ideal. Anyway, yeah, weird indeed. This is why I call this quantum entanglement, because this is some silly shit. Alright, so this is just a designator that works fine. Yeah, not sure why I'm using this one. I guess to get like the base priority or something, and yeah, I want to make sure that this works nicely together with my work tab mod. Something just happened. Zmads, thank you for the follow. Thank you very much. Right. So this is kind of where the magic happens. this is a new job giver work, and it's replacing the default job giver work. I'm using an XML patch to replace that. Let's quickly go into it. So it's just going into the think tree for anything that has this job giver work, and it replaces that with job giver work spatial. So instead of doing this with the Harmony patch, I decided to just replace the whole class, basically. That may come back to bite me in the ass, or I don't know, not sure yet. I was concerned mostly about getting it to work first, and then to see about will it actually play nicely with other mods. So this is just some accessors to private methods. Nothing terribly special there. So this is where actually the magic happens. So normally what happens when you're looking for work is it looks for work givers that are marked with an emergency tag. So that's firefighting, caregiving, maybe some other stuff. I'm not sure. And it looks at all of those as long as it's the highest possible priority. And it looks at those first and only those. So if you, for some reason, put it doesn't actually matter. Natural priority, so the left-right order of things on the work tab or on the tab is not taken into account there, just the priorities you assign to it. Doesn't matter at all, just a technical bit. Then it looks at all the other work givers and it looks at them all in order. So just whatever is highest priority first, and then it's first by natural priority. Natural priority is just the left-right order on the work tab. And normally you can't see them, but all of the subtasks, so the work givers actually in the work types also have an innate natural priority, so the left-right order, which you can see on when you use my work tab version. And then you can also change the priority individually, which is also why I want to use that here, but not a huge deal. So what I want to do is consider all of the work givers in the same type and with the same priority together. So when you're thinking about types, you're thinking about like the work type, cooking or hunting or construction, research, all these kinds of things. Those are the work types. And the work givers in them for cooking, for example, is cooking things at the cooking table thingy. It's cooking things at the campfire. It's butchering and maybe some other stuff that I've forgotten. Cooking up drugs might be cooking. Not sure. Then we look at all of the potential things that we have, all of the jobs that we have for that group. So normally you would look at if cooking, I think, is mostly on the left within the cooking job. There's in the cooking work type, there's a cooking work giver that is on the left. So you would first look at all the cooking jobs. If there's no cooking job, then you look at all the butchering jobs. And if there's no butchering job, then you go to the hunting. And if there's no hunting, then you go to the next, etc., etc. Now we look at them together as long as they have the same priority. And we look at the areas they're in. So we're first going to look at, okay, is this in an area with a high priority? Potential work things is a special thing when you look at work givers or scanners, they're called technically. And they give you a list of things that could potentially have a job. So if you're thinking about cooking, go back to there again, then all of the bill givers, so those are the work tables, the campfires, anything that you can assign bills to, are counted as potential work things for that job. If you're looking at mining, then everything that's designated as a mining target is a potential work giver or potential target for that job. The next step is to look, okay, is this actually a viable target? So can the pawn get there? Is it not forbidden? Is it not on fire? Is it not a whole list of other stuff? But potential is just to limit your search a little bit. So yeah, then we're subsetting that by the spatial priority, and then we're actually looking, okay, of these potential work things, which one has actually got a job for us? That works for most things. Yeah. So this is just implementing that. This is what I just talked about. So if we're talking about an emergency, then we also only need to look at the emergency work givers. Otherwise, we look at the work givers in order normal. So that includes all of the work givers. Yeah, if there are no work givers, so if a pawn doesn't have any priorities assigned, then it doesn't have a job. Duh. This is also the first time I've looked at this in a while, so it may take me a little bit sometimes. So we're creating a batch is a list of work giver scanners. Sure. Scanner is just the base type for basically all work givers, at least anything that you can manipulate with the work tab. There's also job givers, which is almost the same thing, but those happen like naturally. So when you have wild animals, if they decide to hunt or to, I don't know, have sex, I guess, or attack something or do whatever they do, that is handled with job givers, not work givers. The same is true for pawns. Things like getting rest, sleep, getting the recreation. That kind of stuff is also a job giver, not a work giver. Oh, wrong button. Yeah, so I've got them in order, and what I'm doing is I have a list of work givers in order of priority, and I'm just going to check like, okay, so this is sorted by the priority for the work giver and by the natural priority for the work type, and then so they're also grouped within work type if they have the same priority, and then finally by the natural priority for the work giver. So they're still in the logical ordering and they're clustered per work type. I just get a batch. A batch is defined as whatever has the same priority as the first one I looked at. Well, we've got a couple of checkers to see if they can use that, if these things are allowed to be batched together. So yeah, again, the work type is the same, priority is the same. Not sure what this stuff is doing, but we can look at it more later. If we found something in this batch, so for this high priority, then we can return that. We can give them a job. Or it's a scanner. Is it not a scanner? All right. Sure, I'm not sure what that is meant for at the moment. We'll have a look at it later. I have to refresh myself a little bit on how the specifics of this work. Then we look at the next batch. So that just keeps going until you find something and you can assign a job. Right, that would happen there, I guess. Or if we can't assign anything, then you assign nothing. So trying to get a job from a batch is rather complicated. Ooh. Maybe I should have refreshed myself on this before I started the stream. We can discover it together. Alright, so I'm looking at a batch, and a batch is just a list of work givers that have the same priority and the same work type. From that, I select as many potential targets as I can for each work giver. And potential targets is just looking at like, okay, this work giver, is it a thing that scans things or a thing that scans cells? So for example, the work giver for mining scans cells because you designate a cell to be mined. The work giver for things is things like hauling or whatever, because things are the things that get hauled, not something from that cell, no, that particular thing. Also pawns and etc. are all things. So if you set a pawn to get some kind of operation, that would also be a potential thing. It's a little bit. It always sounds a little bit dehumanizing to talk about it in that way, but I guess that's hardly the worst thing anyone has ever done in RimWorld. Yeah. So it just combines those. They're all potential targets. You don't really care about what specifically it is. So now we have a list of potential targets. Then we group them by their spatial priority. So this is just a quick getter for a priority grid and the cell index in that. So that's, yeah, the priority grid is just defined as a matrix that has the same size as your map size, and each cell in that matrix is the priority for the cell in that. It's for the square of that map. It's, yeah, not very special. It's basically the same thing as the cleaning grid or any area grid, with the difference that this is a numerical grid and the cleaning grids or area grids are like Boolean grids. So they have a true false value. This has an integer value. I think I actually had to create my own grid type for that as well, if I remember correctly. But yeah, not terribly important. We'll get to that later. Why can I not use that one? All right. And we group them by work givers. And then we order them again by the priority there, and then by the work giver's priority in type. So that's kind of like the natural priority of the work giver. So that's like the left-right order that we were talking about before. And that's usually a logical order in which to do things. Then yeah, okay, so then we have a batch for each of those. And a batch is then a group of jobs with an equal priority from the same work giver. Yeah, debug lines. So of these, we just select the closest one, apparently. Oh gosh. So closest is defined. We have a number of targets. We have a max search distance. This is something I defined though, right? Yeah. Not sure why I still have to look for priority here. Huh. There's a prioritized. You should, Higgs. You should. You can use it as background noise. That's what that's what I usually do when I watch streamers. Just occasionally tune in. But obviously, I expect all of you to have your complete focus on me. Not sure where this priority comes from, because it should all have the same priority, so I'm not sure why I'm checking that here. But whatever, it doesn't matter terribly much. Yeah. I think that's kind of not necessary. But I'm sure there may have been a reason. We'll look at it later and maybe remove it and see what happens. If it is prioritized, this is apparently a base game property that I've never seen used before. I'm not really sure where that comes from. So apparently you can prioritize work givers. Anybody seen that before? Any idea what that is? But yeah. And basically we loop over them and we check the distance for each of them, and then we just return the one with the closest distance. It's just as simple as that. not sure we could even optimize that. How does one find out what uses that priority? Oh, this tag. Yeah. Erdolf, have you seen the priority property on work givers before, or work giver scanners before? Or am I now going insane, and is this something that I defined? No, because that's not on the... that is... Oh, there's a prioritized. Work giver prioritized is the what I'm talking about. Well, let's have a look. So if you want to know what something does in vanilla, you need to open your trusty decompiler. In my case, that's dnspy. And you go and search for it. That'll do. I know that workgiver train is a subclass of workgiver eventually, so I will find what I'm looking for. And this should have... Was it workgiver scanner? Should have prioritized. There we go. Yeah. Now we can look at this one to see where it's actually overridden, so what actually uses it. And that's a researcher and remove roof. Hello, Nesseros. Welcome to the stream. Okay. So roof just always returns yes. As does researcher. Yeah, but emergency is a different thing. Emergency is defined on the def. If I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So if the job giver defines it as an emergency, it uses prioritized work givers. No. No, I don't think so. Because that is a thing, but that doesn't seem to have anything to do with priority. Well, let's see where it's actually used. So what actually calls this? It's in a try issue job package. Oh yeah, that's another of those terrible... So yeah, this is why I replaced the whole damn thing. Because this is like job giver work spatial, and if I'm not mistaken, that is actually what I'm... Yeah, job giver work. Wait, it's not spatial, is it? No, it's just job giver work. I'm overriding that with my spatial version. Because this try issue job package function is just... Ugh. Like this entire mess. Yeah, it does. And I'm sure it looks better in like the documented code and not decompiled and whatever. But that is like equivalent to what I had in here. I think mine looks a lot better, to be honest. But I don't know how mine looks decompiled, so maybe it's just as messy. Okay, so here, this is emergency. This is going to the dev, I think. Yeah. The mind state is prioritized, is when you manually prioritize this. So that's another different version of priority. Then mind state, priority, work type, work giver by priority. Interesting. I've never seen it gotten from here. You normally get it from somewhere else, I think. But whatever. So this is just a list of work givers by priority. So I think this is... Oh no, this is the normal priority ordering. So this is apparently a different priority ordering. Well, if that is indeed the case, Nesseros, I'm very happy because I hope that... Because it's definitely not making me smarter. I always feel like an idiot after these streams. It's fun though, so that's something. Oh gosh. So if this is an emergency and we've manually told them to do that, then we get a work giver list from here. I'm not sure what that does. We go over it and we just give it a job. And then we clear our priority work. When this list is done. I think this is now. I used to remember this for when it's just one thing, but then at some point like the shift clicking to do multiple things in a row got introduced, and I think that is what this is. The priority work is just a list of jobs that have been queued up. I think, but maybe it's just a batch of fires to be put out. Either way, don't particularly care, because this is basically the normal scenario. Just quickly want to check something. I can still manually assign shit, right? Oh, I couldn't do that anyway, but I can do that. Yeah, completely different system. Right, fair enough. Can you do that there? What are you gonna do now? Ooh, that's something else. Hey, grass. Wait. So when I manually tell them to do it, it does do the correct thing. Interesting. It's gonna be so much fun. Alright, anyway, it's got the list of work givers in order. I'm doing the same thing here. So this is my list of work givers. That's called just list here. Then it's called just list is an artifact of decompilation. I'm pretty sure it has a better name originally. Tries to find a target. This is just defining like a variable for the scanners that we're going to loop over later. So we go over each of these lists. If the priority and type is not number and target info is valid, then break. Why though? Alright, so if we do that, then we break, and then we go return no. Huh? That doesn't seem like a good idea. We're bringing back a Gundam Knuckles. Is that what the thing is called? I do that as a tick. My fiance hates it. Alright, I'll try and stop it. No. She watches sometimes and tells me that I make all kinds of annoying noises and that she doesn't understand why people are still watching me. Anyway, I'm going to ignore this for a second because I'm not sure why. Yeah, but this will never be true. Wait, what? Right. Okay. No, okay. Yeah. This is just a safeguard for if we already have a target, and then we don't need to look at work givers that have a lower priority anymore because we already have them in order. So we loop over everything. We may have a target at some point, but then we still want to look at other work givers because they may have a target that is closer, I guess. Maybe. I'm not sure. Um, but if they already have a different priority, then we've reached something that has a worse priority. So then we can just stop and return what we have. I think. Apparently not, because we just break. Am I going crazy, or is breaking out of the loop, right? So then you return no job. Interesting. I'm not sure why that would trigger, but maybe we'll get a moment of inspiration later. If Pong can use work giver, it's just to check on if he doesn't have the tags for. I think let's have a look. Yeah, it has to be a colony. The story, so the background things shouldn't disable any of these tags. So like cannot do manual labor, is afraid of fire, that kind of shit. The giver can also have a should skip function on pawn. So a work giver can also define that theoretically. Oops, sorry about that. Pawns that have a health condition or something are not allowed to do this job, or women are not allowed to do this job, or whatever. That's theoretically possible. Or you're missing a required capacity. So again, you're not able to walk, so you can't do hauling. Story, tough. If you are allowed to do it, then try. This is for if it's a non-scan job. If we have that, if you have any, just apply that one. I'm doing the same kind of thing as well. Because we're looking at non-scan jobs within each batch as well. That was here, I think, if I remember correctly, somewhere. Maybe. I remember seeing it. Prioritize work given, right-click menu. Yeah, so I do talk about this. Good. Looking for a cam batch, get the batches, get job from batch. Oh yeah, this is hmm. Why would this not return if it's a scanner or non-scanner thing? Is there a particular reason for that? Yeah, because if it's a non-scan thing, then you wouldn't get any potential targets. Because that works with a non-scan job and not the scanning things or cells. Then presumably in can batch it also looks for that. Yeah, it's a work giver scanner. So then it doesn't give a non-scan job. Yeah. Okay. Right. So that was the non-scan job. If you have that, just give it. Otherwise, you look at scanners. And if it's a scan things, then you look at the you set up a predicate, so it's not forbidden, and the scanner actually has a job on that. You get the list of potential work things that I was talking about earlier. Then apparently if it's prioritized, we do something different. We create a new list of the potential work things global. If that's null, then we look at work thing requests. I think I've handled that in my version differently, but also if you allow unreachable, then you have a different way to check what is closest. Sure, I'm not going too deep into that one. Otherwise, if you have to reach it, then we're looking at the traverse params with like a certain amount of danger that is allowed. We're using a palm, and it has to be touched. Is that not in there somewhere? Yeah, you're not allowed to bash doors. And the path end mode here, not sure where that is coming from. Oh, that's coming from the scanner, but that will probably be touch in most cases. So you have to touch the cell or the thing that you're working with. Sure. Yeah, and then there's the validator function in there. That's the predicate that we were looking at. And there's a priority getter, because apparently you can still use priorities within that as well. I really don't understand that. So scanner get priority. Right. So this is a different priority than okay, interesting. Yeah, so this is a priority that is, for example, this is not the priority that you set in the work tab for pawns and doing particular jobs. This is, for example, the priority when you're doing roofing. Then you want the roof in the middle to be cleared first. So if we look at what overrides this, it should also, yeah. So these are the same kind of things. Right, that's what the prioritized means. The prioritized is just a toggle to see if you need to use this thing. And I'm pretty sure that the researcher will just prioritize whatever table is the best. Yeah. So yeah, here the priority function, the get priority is just, yeah, okay, this is making a lot more sense now. Now I understand what is happening here again. Good. So it's when you do a research job, it's trying to look for the table that has the highest research speed. That makes sense, obviously. And in this one, it'll be some kind of function. Yeah, I don't particularly need to understand this, but this is going to give some kind of weight on what cells should be done first. So the sensor cells, probably. Hopefully. Oh, wrong button. Okay then, that helps. So that explains why we still had to keep track of priorities when we were looking at the trying to find the closest target. I'm losing overview here. Yeah, here. So when we're looking at this one, I was wondering, like, okay, why do we care about priority? We care about priority because this is not yeah, so if it's prioritized, then we want to check the priority. And I really don't need to check this for everything, but yeah, whatevs. And how it prioritized the grow zone ingredient. Yeah, that's another different thing. We'll look at that in a second. I just want to go over how this worker giver actually works. So then we get a target. Yeah. We just do the normal stuff. It's like we get the job and we return that as a new thing result. Let's just give the job to the pawn, hand it off. All right, so potential target is just potential things and potential cells. That's, yeah, I mean, it's just, if they're, this is the same thing that we saw in the vanilla version. That they get the list of potential work things global, but if that list is null, then it looks at a potential work thing request. Then you have the different ways of pathfinding. Then you have completely different, like this is all, I broke all of these steps off into separate functions. So I have a function that looks specifically for scanners that look at cells alone. And then I look at potential work cells global instead of work things global. But here it's all in one giant nested if statement, which doesn't make a terrible amount of sense if you ask me, but okay. So that's if it's prioritized, if it's unreachable. Then we have the same thing here again, if it's prioritized. Alright, then we look at if the target invoice is valid, then we get the job. If the job is not null, then we return it. If it is null, then we give the same error that I was giving as well. It's just that something's wrong. Alright. Let's look at why farming is different. So this is work giver grow, I guess. Work giver grower. All right. So this is kind of interesting. So it's just overriding scanner, and it only has potential work cells global. And it has this thing with wanted plant death, which is probably where it's going wrong. Shouldn't this have never mind. I was gonna say it should have like a has job on yeah, this one, job on cell method and stuff. It does. It just has it in a subclass, because this one is probably also, yeah, it's abstract, so it itself is not instantiatable. This is not a workable thing. This only serves as a parent class with some common functionality for the two other grower types, so the harvest and sow. It's almost biblical, isn't it? You reap what you sow. All right. I don't think harvest is going to be a terrible problem. So I think this is where it's going wrong. Okay. So this is, first of all, it's a cell scanner, basically. So this is just going to return basically anything in a growing zone with some extra requirements. Let's have a quick look what those extra requirements are. So we're looking at all of the buildings. So these are plant pots, for example, hydroponics, those kinds of buildings. Extra requirements is just true in this case, but it's not true for growers. So, wait, more? Sorry. It has to be able to accept sowing now. Probably hydroponics cannot sow if they're frozen or out of power or something. Don't know. Then we look at if it's a growing zone. So hydroponics are defined both as a building and as a zone. It's also something special. Run into that before, kind of funky. It's not a huge deal. So if it's not a zone, so if this has its own zone, then we just look at the first cell of it to see which is going to be allowed, and otherwise we look at the position of the building. Interesting. Get plant to grow settable. Wow, this seems needlessly complicated, to be honest. Get plant to grow settable. Alright, so this is another of those thing grid thingies. The grids, the map grids that we were talking about earlier. Yeah, this is often when you take like a deep dive down the code, it gets mighty complicated mighty fast. Sometimes to the point where you kind of lose track of what you initially were looking for, which is kind of what's happening to me now, but oh well. So it's either looking for an edifice, which if I remember it correctly is just a building. Yeah, it is. With something extra on it, maybe. Can have a look. Yeah, it's edifice grid again. And more grids, yay. And this is going to look at the zone manager, basically also a set of grids. And then it's going to return this ePlant to grow settable thing, which is just an interface. Which will have a map getter, a cell rect, a function to get the plant depth to grow, a function to set it, and a function that returns whether or not it will accept sowing now. So we need to figure out why that is going wrong. I think that interface might be rather crucial to what we're doing, so we may have to have a better look at it. Yeah, that shouldn't be a huge problem. Okay, so we were looking at the extra requirements. Don't really see any problems there that are going to pop up there, at least. It's not forbidden, you can reach it, it's not burning. Alright, then it's just going to return all of the cells in there. Not sure why it's resetting this to be null. I think this might be our problem. Because this wanted plant def thing is being set in the work giver. So this is shared. This is going to be shared. And because I'm basically caching this stuff, because I'm getting a bunch of them, and then I'm looking at which one is going to be best, it's probably where it's just using like an old plant def that it shouldn't be using. I think. But let's investigate a little bit further, because it's going to do it's doing a list. So this was checking for buildings. Then it's setting the wanted plant def to null again. This is so weird. I honestly think that it's like it's setting for the. Is it ever? Where is this coming from? Work giver grower wanted plant def. Yeah, this is even static. So this is also shared by the harvester. What the? Why? What I think is happening is it's setting it here somewhere. Probably in there. That was in. I need to look at the harvest version of it. Oh no, this version of it. Yeah. It's setting it here. So this is already kind of obscured away. Then when it's yielding this, normally you would immediately decide whether or not you want to use that job. I think. Yeah. Because you would just go over that yield list, I think, and then just pick the first one that is acceptable. Which means that this is synced. But I don't do that. I get all of the yields that I can, which means that it's just going through, happily going through the list of wanted plant defs, and it's changing them when it's yielding the next one. And then I decide which one I to use. But it's going to give me whatever one was the last one. Yeah, whichever like thing it iterated through last. So it's even going to go through, like it's going to go through all of the buildings, then it's going to go through all of the zones, so all of the growing zones, and then after that I decide what I want to do. So I'm pretty sure that it's just going to give me whichever zone I build last. So it didn't actually matter about priority, it was just that I built them in that order. Or first, because I built that one last. I don't know. What happens if I make this Stop sleeping, you lazy buggers. I'm pretty sure that one way or another, that is actually my problem. Yeah, it's not trying to replace it in the higher priority zones. Let's give this a high priority again. We have nothing with critical. So it should sow there first and probably sow cotton. Yeah, it is sowing cotton. I'm curious what it's sowing in the other stuff now, because it's sowing potatoes here still. Is it now going to sow everything with cotton? Yeah, so it's just sowing whatever is highest priority, I think. Let's make another zone and put something else in it to see if it's maybe the order of that. Let's plant some roses. Are those roses? No, that's still cotton. So apparently it looks like it's just planting whatever is in the highest priority zone. So if I make this one high priority as well. Why do they have to sleep? Can I just... No, sleepy. Work. No love. Bugger off. So that's still cotton. But if I reduce the priority on this, it's going to change the roses? Yeah. Oh. Sure. Whatever. Alright, so the symptom of the problem appears to be it's just planting everything with whatever is the highest priority. I'm still not sure why it happens exactly, but I'm pretty sure this is to blame. Like having a weird static that keeps track of where you are in your iterator, and then you reference that again. It seems like a really weird way to design this. Alright, so this is just the potential things. Then we actually need to look if we have an actual job. So in the sewing, if if has job on cell is not defined, it should give oh, it will just look if the job on cell is not null, I think. Yeah. So the harvesting actually has two separate checks for that. Sewing just has the one, and it actually will run that twice, which is another of those silly things, because it will run it once to see if it's not null, and then it will run it again to actually get the job. Oh, I'm sure there's a way to bypass it. Abso-fucking-lutely. Just gonna rip it apart. We'll probably have to check if it's a work giver of this class, or the grower class, and then recalculate. Ooh, hex. Amazing. Right, should not have pressed that button. And then recalculate what it actually needs to do there and just dump it into that static variable before it does that. It is RimWorld is mostly a single thread game, so there's no synchronization issues there. Just need to, when we hand the job out, we need to quickly set that variable, and then it will probably just take it from there. But I'm just going to quickly double check how it actually takes it from there. So anyway, this is the grower job that we were looking at, and this is the actual job on cell method. So the basic stuff, the cell you want to grow is not forbidden for you. It is actually a grow season now, and then here it's where we look at the work giver and the wanted plant dev and see if that is not null. Why? This is what you should be doing. You should just be recalculating this and not assuming that this is correct. Because it's already checking, like, okay, if it's null, try to recalculate it. If it's still null, then you don't have a job here. Just get rid of that. You're good. Sorry, more weird noises. Sorry about that. I'm not. I'm really not. I make weird noises. Get used to it. Okay. Is this a static thing and it's protected? Ugh. I was gonna say if it's public, then at least I can just go there and null it, and then it will recalculate it. We can still do that, but now we need to be a little bit more clever about things. So now we need to use reflection to get access. Because protected is only the class itself, and anything that subclasses that class can access it. So you can't access it from outside that class. That's basically what it's saying. Okay. What we want to do is, before we hand out the job, right here, no, before we even get the job, interesting. Yeah, when we get the job, so when we call this one, we need to make an extra check to see if our work giver is of type work giver harvest or sow or whatever it was, plant, grow, something, and then null out the particular field on that instance. I'm not sure why I made this work target subclass thingy though. Where am I getting those from? So this is already in the batches. This is where I get a list of scanners. Okay, with potential targets. Is that going to give me the work target? Yeah. There's a new list work target, potential things. There's a new work target, pawn thing, work giver. And it's just going to be pawn cell map work giver. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Alright, fair enough. It's not very special. This is just a little class. Could possibly even be a struct. To keep like everything that is relevant to a job. So the work giver it came from, the pawn it is for, the cell or target it was given, and which map it's on if it's just a cell reference. That could probably, I could probably replace the target and the cell map thing with a target info, which is like a vanilla data type that serves the same purpose. But I mean, this is working otherwise fine, so let's not mess with it too much. So this is where we're getting the job, and this is where we just need to look. So first we try to get a non-scan job, that's going to fail. Then we try to get the job on cell. This is the thing where it's breaking. This is also the vanilla method, right? Yeah. I need to make this a little bit broader. Okay. Yeah. So if work giver is work giver grow, this is a fancy new trick that I learned the other day. Is that you can so normally you would then also have to cast it, but you can check for it and cast it in one go, which is kind of cool. So now I have to find a new variable grower that is like work giver, this work giver as a work giver grower. Just a nice one-liner that is yeah, it makes sense, and it just makes your code cleaner, and it's still easy to follow, which is the best kind of syntactical features. Anyway, then in this grower, that has a field that says wanted plant type or something. What was it called again? Wanted plant def, this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to null that. So we're going to do a traverse. Yeah. Sure. We're going to create that on our... We don't need a typing for that because we do it on the type or on the instance. And we're going to get the field, which is named wanted plant def. And then we're going to set a value on that, and that value is going to be a null. I think this is all we need to do. And then we still have some other problems because I'm replacing the entire work giver, or the job giver, sorry. So anything else that tries to patch that gets royally screwed over. I'm talking, from what I remember, prison labor. And I think there were a couple of other mods as well, but mostly prison labor. Yeah. We can have a quick look for that actually. No, wait, no. I need to test this first. One thing at a time. Let's store this map. And you were built, right? Yeah. Reload you. I'm getting ahead of myself. From the log parser, one of the nice things you can get is a list of all patches in all of the output logs that have been collected by Huxlib. From that list of patches, you can basically filter and see like, okay, which mods are patching which methods. So I should be able to just quickly do a query on the job giver work, and see what actually does any patches on that, and see what we can do to ameliorate that problem, or at least let them know that, okay, how can we figure this out? How can we work on that? But first things first, it's loaded into a new game. We want a different one. If I remember correctly, it was planting roses everywhere, and we didn't want it to. All right. Ooh. Errors. Errors are never good. Yeah. 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 All right. What's happening here is the has job on thing method. No, sorry. The potential work things method is checking to see. No, that doesn't make sense either. What's happening? Are you running away from a rabbit? Show some balls. Go get him. Oh yeah. I always forget that this stuff resets itself. So unless I want them to go mental again, I need to turn it off. The damage is already done though, because he's probably bleeding to death now. Oh, no immediate danger. That's a small wonder. Alright, here we go. Back to the yielded no actual job. What I think is happening... What I thought was happening is that it's assigning a job, for example, to this because it wants to plant potatoes, but it actually has cotton. And that means nice quality of life, more puns, start aggressive instead of running away. So many people don't know about that button. No. I think there is actually a mod for it. At least there is a mod that like lets you set a default for it, so that new recruits don't. You don't always have to like press the button and then you forget it, and then people start getting hurt and everything. Anyway, so it's trying to assign a job for this, but then it's deciding like actually no, you don't need to do that, which is not possible. Is it? No, it is because it's a different thing. I want to say I want to quickly check what is in here. Plant to grow and to see if it's actually working. Because this is definitely what I'm. If job is null. Yeah, it's only checking it once. That shouldn't matter. Yeah. Yeah. Plant. The current plant that we want to grow is then just traverse, create. This is I can do this at one thing, but whatever. This is actually a field, right? Not a property or something again. No, this is a protected static field with a thing def of plant in it, right? The plant def, get the value from that. And this value is a plant def. Why? It's a thing. That plant dev is not actually a thing. Right. All right. So plan to grow, get that thing. If it's not defined, then print null. Otherwise, print the def name. Simple enough. Then calculated plant to grow. We're going to use the same method that vanilla uses to calculate it for a particular cell, which we should also be able to do. Calculate wanted plant depth. That is actually public, which is nice. Yeah. So here we're looking at work giver grower, calculate wanted plant depth. Then we've got our cell, we've got a map, and we get a thing def. Again, if that is not null, print the def name. Otherwise, print null. Yeah, I think I remember seeing it. I couldn't possibly tell you what it was named or where I saw it, though, to be honest. But I have a distinct recollection of seeing it. Or maybe it was somebody suggesting that idea, which is also entirely possible. But I think I saw it. Alright, so I'm quickly going to see, like, okay, what is actually in here now? What is it giving me, calculating for me? What does it think I should be doing? I'm not sure what's going on here. Also, I think I should be getting much more output. I'm just getting output there. I thought I should also be getting output on like the batches and stuff, but tweak values, debug now. I'm quickly looking at there's a way to show, it's like inspecting or something. I want to see which cells they were actually considering, just for my benefit. There are too many different menus here. I guess it's this one. Yeah. Alright, that shows the cells. And they were complaining about 29042. That's on that row. That specific thing is what they were looking at. So this is growing corn, and that is actually already growing corn. So yes, that is correct. You don't have a job on that. And they keep trying to give it. So somehow it is still thinking that that is the case. All right, well. Because this is coming from my batch function. So if there's something still wrong in that specific thing, then it is my fault, more or less. Wait, are you not? Did you not save? Apparently priorities also don't save. Or did I clear them all? Is it now going to try and plant cotton everywhere again? Okay, so this is working. It's planting cotton in that area, and that's doing fine. Maybe it's just like because it's in a corrupted state or something, and I should just refresh it. Now it's going to complain again. But it's 54.0. This is probably all the same area. Yeah, 54.048 is there, and the 41 is the area below it. Alright, this is clearly not, I need to work on this more. This is built, let's refresh that. Petition for a fluffy dev menu. No. Just no. I think Huxlip, or like Unlimited Hux from Huxlip, he did a rework of the dev menu, or he just added a lot to it. I don't know. I remember some people doing quite a lot with changing the dev menu. Might have also been Airdelf, actually. Might as just well just do a fluffy RimWorld. Yeah, no. I thought about creating a game in the past, even just like a silly mini game, like some Ludum Dare kind of thing or something, and I would really love to do it. The dev menus, I was just complaining how terrible they are, and like why are there so many different things that don't seem to be all that different and everything. I know that some modders have been adding things to it and maybe changing things a little bit as well. But I don't remember who. You seem like the type that would do that, though. See? There you go. Yeah, that makes sense. Let's load into my little test game again. But yeah, anyway, what I was talking about is the like actually creating a game. I just don't have the creativity to do it, to be honest. I wouldn't even know where to start. Like, I'm very good at finding nitpicky things in other people's games that I want to change, hence all of my mods. Making a game? Nah. Had a couple of attempts, didn't get anywhere. Nah. Right. Are you still... you're back on being whiny little bitches. Just attack the damn thing. Here, I'll make you invulnerable. Oh, do you know about the tweak menus, by the way? This thing is amazing. You can define values as tweak values, and then they like get automatically added to this thing, and you can just change them on the fly with this is just like reflection behind the scenes or something. It's amazing when you want to do like small tweaks to, well, tweak menu, duh, to like your user interface and stuff. Alien Race body add-ons offsets to that. Yeah, you were also talking about that you added it to, you changed it to make it also work with instance variables, right? So not just statics. But yeah, that thing is amazing. It's really cool. Not what I was looking at though. I was going for that. Because enable damage and storyteller and everything is under the view settings. I'm a little bit confused because they were actually planting the right thing here. Like potatoes. But that might just be because I gave that a higher priority, I guess. Did I though? Yeah, I did. I gave that a critical priority. So if I now give this a critical priority and change this to important, is it going to plant cotton everywhere again? Apparently, I should not disable damage for everybody. because then even little rabbits never die. I'm a PhD candidate at university in the Netherlands, which in a lot of countries is like you're a glorified student. In the Netherlands, you're actually an employee, so that's a nice difference. Yeah, so this is definitely like there's some funky stuff going on there. I'll finish what I was talking about, and then we'll look at that. Yeah, yeah, it is nice most of the time. It also gave me a burnout and a depression, but hey, gotta count your blessings, right? It's tough, but yeah. I mean, at least I get paid and I get like sick leave and everything for that. So if I was in the US, for example, I would be royally screwed. So I mean, coffee, very fancy coffee actually, which is not very good. Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to dig on the US healthcare system and everything because I mean everybody knows that it's kind of a flawed system. It's a little bit better now than it used to be, I guess, but it's just we're kind of privileged that being a PhD student here is actually a job, and they're trying to change that, and they're trying to make you into a glorified student as well. Understandably, there's a lot of backlash against that, but yeah, that's yeah. Let's not get political here, because well, I just don't want to get into that. Let's just say I wasn't very happy lately. I stopped following American politics. I used to care a lot, and you just get really angry a lot of the time for various things, and nothing changes, and it doesn't actually make you happy. And especially for me, like I live in the Netherlands, we have our own issues, but luckily they're nowhere near as big as the Americans. And I just stopped listening to podcasts about it, stopped looking at the news about it. I mean, we sometimes get the main events, and then I look at it, but I don't go out of my way to look at the news for that anymore. Trying to do the same thing with Brexit. That's a little bit closer to home, but that's also one of those. It's just never gonna make you happy. So why would you go out of your way to read up about it and everything? Yorkshire tea. I've never tried. My fiance is big into tea, so we have a bunch of different teas and lots of green teas and like actual fresh teas, different chais and lots of stuff. Some of them is quite nice, but I'm a coffee drinker. Tea is for when I've had enough coffee, and that's usually after like the 8th cup a day or something, or when I'm feeling sick. Um, I want to look at what is going on here. Alright, so I didn't leave me any space in between here. So it looks like it's still using the wrong plans for the potential work things. Alright, so let's have a quick look again. I get potential cells from the work giver with potential work cells global. And then I cast them into this potential list. Yeah? Agreed? I think it's probably already going wrong at the point where I'm looking for the closest one. Or, well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. The batch is the work giver, a list of work givers, and we get all of the targets from that. So at this point, we have a list of potential work targets that is based on this potential work cells global. Let's quickly look at what that is doing if it's not just doing something stupid. So that comes from the base type, the vanilla work giver grower. And this was just the list that's giving us the wanted plan devs, and that's using that. But at this point, there's nothing wrong with this yet. Because here it is actually using the correct, like in the extra requirements, it sets the wanted plant dev. So by the time it yields this cell, it is actually using the correct wanted plant dev. So I think what's going wrong is at some point I'm filtering it down on anything that has a job on that cell. And as we looked at before, that just checks if job on cell is null. And this job on cell is then probably still using the wrong plant dev, thing dev, plant, whatever. I just need to find out where I do that. This is just a list of potential targets. I don't understand that I didn't get this debug message, like the batch thing. I should be getting that. But I'm never getting that. It's really weird. Doesn't matter there much. Okay, so this has gone into a tea discussion. Where are you guys from? Because you're talking about tea, so I immediately think that you guys are British, or English or whatever. But Washington State. All right. Okay. Cool. So Washington State, that's northwest, right? Seattle? Right. It's one of the few states I actually know. Well, no, as in where it is. We went to New York a year ago. That's the only time I've ever been in the US. That was teas and greens here. Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I like green tea as well. Yeah. I mean, mostly on my relaxing days, so maybe on holidays and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Oh, wait, there's an extra debug flag on there that I haven't set. Yes, that's why I'm not seeing anything. Yep, okay, that makes sense. I think maybe in here. No. Do I? So this is the list of potential targets, and that's just looking at potential things. So that's potential work cells. This is not actually checking if there is a job on that. So I am doing that somewhere, just don't know where. So here I'm looking at the closest one. So for each target, it's going to be invalid in it. Yeah, has job. And that's doing this thing again. It doesn't seem to make sense that I'm doing this as the last possible thing to check whether or not it's valid. Because you would think that the distance checks are going to be more of a problem. But the actual distance check that I'm using here is super simplified, because this is just like as the crow flies. So I guess that doesn't matter too much. And then the valid is actually probably a more thorough check, because here we actually have to check the pathfinding. And we have to check if it has a job on it, which may involve all kinds of other weirdness. But we need to do the same thing that we did with the other workgiver here. So we can basically copy paste that. So yeah, it looks like I was right about what the problem is. And that is that we're not, it's using the wrong thing. It's getting the wrong wanted plan dev in the has job on thing check, or it's getting a different plan dev than it is getting in the actual job on thing or job on set, whatever method. I keep hitting my restream, seriously? Alright, okay, sure. Not a big fan of the water taste here. Yeah. Thanks, Nesseros. It's I remember the water in New York being very very chlorinated. Like it's really, yeah, it had a very distinct chlor taste. It's otherwise was fine. And I'm used to just drinking the water from the tap. I live in an area where there's we have relatively soft water. There's not as much calcium in it, and a lot of people coming from the west of the Netherlands say that our water smells. So I never particularly noticed it. It's fine, but yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of my colleagues and stuff also never drink tap water here. It's not because it's bad or something, they just never got used to the taste. My fiance also took a very long time to get used to the smell of the water here, the taste of the water. I quickly want to take this one out. Does it matter? No, it really doesn't matter. But I'm going to do it anyway. Fix workgiver grower. I'm just going to create a quick little helper function for this, so that we don't have two places where the same code is defined. We can't make it static then if we use the workgiver reference in it, which is fine, doesn't matter. This is a debug call, so this is conditionally compiled only when we're in debug mode, so only when I'm in testing setup, which is fine as well. This is setting it to null. We could theoretically, yeah, we probably should. This is let's do it differently then. Get fields. Do the field. This is going to be type of. I'm just quickly caching the actual field info. I know Traverse does that internally, I think, but I don't want to count on that happening. So I just want to do it explicitly myself. So this is going to be work giver. Oh, grower. I keep thinking it's harvest. Work giver grower still sounds dirty to me. Water test and won't have water sommelier and water grading events. Yeah, that's not necessarily true. They've done some interesting research on wine tasters and stuff as well, and basically they're full of shit. Like the very best of them can taste more differences, but like many people that call themselves wine tasters have difficulty distinguishing a chilled red wine from a white wine. It's kind of, yeah, you put a blindfold on them and they're suddenly just randomly guessing. Can I do that? No, I didn't think so. I love it they made a white wine that looked like a red wine and vice versa. Well, yeah, that's kind of the point. That you have different varieties and stuff, and there's really not that much difference, other than oftentimes white wine is served chilled, and red wine is served at like somewhere around room temperature. And obviously, there's the color. So if you can look at it, then you know what it is. And you can. It's a lot easier to work that out. But if you blindfold them and you chill the red wine, it is very hard to distinguish it from white wine. I mean, I'm not saying nobody can do it and whatever, but it's like a lot of people who think they're good at tasting wine and stuff. Yeah, okay, yeah, sorry, I'm not. Maybe you're one of the few who is actually very good at it. I mean, it makes a lot of, like my fiance wouldn't drink the tap water here, but she will if it's cooled, if it's chilled. So we always have a couple of bottles in the fridge. This is null because this is a static field, and then this is also null because we want it to recalculate itself. We could also calculate it. We could use the helper here and set it manually. Just doesn't matter. Let it do that. Hey, Morovka. Are you Morova? Or are you something else, somebody else? Just asking. Alright, now we need to actually build that in here. We'll just run that. So if the work giver is not a grower, this doesn't do anything. But if it is, then that will help. And we need to do the same thing before the has job method. So there. You are? Ooh, awesome. Nice to see you. Are you still modding? I haven't seen you around in ages. There we go. So this is going to work now. Then I can actually release it. The annoying thing is, in the time that I was working on this and then left it lying around for a year or so, I'm pretty sure somebody else already did this. Rimworld zone priority or something. No. Growing zone priorities? Yeah, okay, well that's specifically for growing zones. This is the issue on my mod. Area priorities? Yeah, that's somebody asking for what I was doing. That's mine. Maybe growing zone priorities. That is a super awesome, very detailed pictures. Plant pots, hydroponics, etc. Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's probably just using the prioritize toggle that we were looking at earlier, that the research tab and everything uses, or at least that's how I would implement that. Which just no, I was thinking, isn't that how I should be doing everything then? But that would mean that you get area priorities within work givers, which is not what I wanted, because I wanted it to be across work givers. Good source guide. I couldn't find the source submodule path. It's not always roses. It seems to plan whatever is in the item is first growing and you create it in a world. Yeah. Yeah, so this was like over a year ago. There is a priority mode, but it's pretty laggy. Could you send me a link for that if you have it? That's a shame, Mova. You made some of the best art around. I still need to update my my manager art. But yeah. So this is somebody requesting the area priorities. This is a suggestion. Find priority list and flat left or right overview on some kind of priority list per individual set by the player. Yeah, so this is kind of what my work tab 2 was like, actually. Alright, this is 2013, so it's probably not very relevant. And this is something completely unrelated. Alright. If you guys are not familiar with Mrova's mods, which I think is entirely possible because he's mostly put them on the Ludian forums, but there's some really cool stuff in there. It's like the clutter mods, that's some new items, and like you had the cool doors and the change dresser, and I'm forgetting some stuff. The walls, the random walls, furniture as well, right? But mostly it just had really cool art. I really like your art style. Like you and Shinzi. That's some of the best art around. Then I haven't really looked at other mods since in a while though. But right. Let's see if this is actually working before I try to release anything. And we need to check if it's actually storing the priorities, because it looks like it isn't at the moment. All right, so we've got a critical priority in this little plant cotton zone, so they should be doing that one first. And then they should be doing everything else, and they should not be giving us errors. Oh, for fuck's sake. Is that mad hair, like, why is it always showing up? That should be random, shouldn't it? I'm done with him. Bye! Sorry, cat. Why not use a number box? You could input a number as a priority. Yeah, sure. You can. Definitely. I don't think you're actually going to need that many numbers. And I think that might actually be more annoying. What I want to go to, actually, is have like... are you familiar with Oxygen Not Included? They have... I'm sure there's some screenshots where it shows it. Well, that's not useful. Dutch gaming media. Terrible. Can I not enlarge that? I guess it's not really visible in the default view, maybe? But they have... Like when you're in a certain mode, there's just like a list of numbers here. I'm not sure how you make it show up anymore. I guess you have to click the priority thing first and then the list of numbers shows up. Yeah, well, it was definitely the inspiration for mine. So, yeah, that would definitely make sense. All right, prioritize. Yeah, oh yeah, I looked at that. As you set priority in many things, a priority designator on architect tab. Yeah, so that's the same kind of approach I have. For smoothing, constructing is different, so we'll not do for smoothing even has priority if construction is not finished. Yeah, so this is again, this is within work givers. So again, this is probably similar to the implementation as they have on the farm areas. Let's see if they actually have their source on Steam or GitHub. Ooh, they do. Wow. There's more code than I expected here, to be honest. Because if I were to do this, I would try to override the wow, what the hell is this? I would try to override the prioritized and then the get priority method on the work givers. That would be kind of an easy way to make this work for all work givers, as long as you're looking at priorities within work types. And that would be entirely safe and super simple, actually. So you could just override the if the work giver scanner, you override this to return false. I don't know how it works with virtuals. Do you have to override the implementations or just the base class? Erdolf, I'm sure Erdolf can tell me. Maybe you have to provide implementations if you need them for things, but even that shouldn't really matter. And then override the actual priority method to return a number based on the zone priority you give it, and voila, you're done. So I'm really not sure what all of this is. Like, why does it need to specifically do something for construction? Yeah, that's probably because he's drawing. He's drawing on there, like he's manually drawing the priorities on it or something. Which is another reason I'm not using numbers. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you have the selector here with 1 through 9, and then you can just create your priority selections. Yeah, so that's the same kind of thing that I was going for. So I would like to actually add it here or something. Or maybe have an option that you can have it either as a designator or there. And if you do it here, then it's still just going to be a designator. It's just going to be like a shortcut to, instead of going in here and selecting zone and then priority, you can immediately select the priorities from there. Lots of harmony patches. I would say that's a safer way would be to override the job itself. Well, that's what I'm doing at the moment. You're not overriding the job, but you're overriding the... Wow, my computer is really slowing down. I don't know what's going on here. You're overriding the function that gets the that like decides what a pawn should be doing. And I'm not just overriding it, I'm removing or replacing the entire work giver for that. That works in the extent that it's easier and safer because you're just providing your own implementation. Yeah, I guess. But it's getting really unresponsive. Like, I have a decent PC. I don't have like a gaming beast or something, but I do have a decent GPU and relatively recent. But yeah, I'm running out of memory at a rather alarming pace. Visual Studio dnspy has Colby service. Can we just end it? See what happens? The stream crashes. I closed something that I shouldn't have closed. And OBS is taxing my... Wow, okay. I guess using hardware encoding is a lot more stressful for it than I thought. Yeah, I will. I'm going to clock off in a bit anyway because it's getting relatively late here. This appears to be working now. Right. It's Visual Studio that's also just being very slow. We'll have to look at that later. Yeah, no, oh gosh, getting confused. Mova. I'm overriding the class that assigns the jobs. So that's the work giver job. So that's basically when a pawn decides that, okay, I've had enough sleep, I don't need relaxation, I want to do a job. Then it uses that work giver, and then it decides with like the priorities and which job it should be doing. I'm completely overriding that, replacing it in the think tree. So any other mod that uses that, for example, prison labor, cannot work anymore. So that's the main problem with that. Otherwise, it's nice because I don't have to worry about like vanilla implementations and stuff. I can just do my own thing. The main benefit of it is that I look at jobs in a completely different way. So I look at batches of jobs. So all work givers with the same priority in the same work type. I'm considering them together, looking which of them is closer and doing that first. So that means, for example, if you're looking at the cooking work type, if you had 2 kitchens and you assigned one kitchen with a really high priority and one kitchen with a really low priority, all of the jobs in that kitchen, like butchering, cooking, whatever, are different work givers. If you don't look across work givers, they would cook in the high priority first, then cook in the low priority, then butcher in the high priority, and then butcher in the low priority zone. That doesn't make any sense to me. So that's why I'm batching them together. And that's why this is getting a lot more complicated, and that's why we will have to look at mod conflicts later. If you are, however, just looking at doing the same work giver, so you just want to make sure that all construction happens in a particular, like you want to assign a higher priority, and then you want to say like, okay, all construction there should happen before construction everywhere else, and then all roofing there should happen before all roofing somewhere else, or whatever. You're just looking at the work giver first and then at which area it's in. Then that is very easy to do, because we just had a rather deep dive into how the work givers work. And some of the work givers that actually do that are, for example, the work giver research. That actually has a prioritized toggle, and that can have a priority. So when a pawn wants to do research, it actually calls this priority, and it will do research on whatever table has the highest speed factor. So it will try to do research on the table that is most efficient, which is nice. But we could easily tweak this, because this is just a virtual. This is a method that we can give to every work giver, or at least every work giver scanner, and tweak it to return the priority for that zone. And then that would just work. And that's really 2 very simple patches. It's just set this to true on everything, and set this to a method that takes the target info that you're looking at, so this priority, and returns the priority for that cell. That's really very simple. Honestly, so remarkably simple that I might actually do that because it would be like much easier to do. But it's not what I want to do, because I don't think it makes much sense from what I was talking about earlier, which jobs do you do first kind of perspective. Okay, I quickly want to show the work tab 2 again, because it's really cool. I don't have it open anymore, right? No, we'll need to restart again for that. Nope. Nope, 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 nope. I do not want to become famous. That sounds horrible. Who was that? Felix Darkmaster. You're not even in the list. Have you left already? Yeah, I think he's left already. Alright. I just drop spam and leave. Yeah, I was able to ban the last one, but apparently not this time. I already am. Kind of, yeah. But I have no ambitions about being a Twitch streamer. Okay. This is the new implementation, like going a completely different way, idea that I had about creating the work tab. So at the moment, it's just set up with some of the basically the same work types as always. These are just based on the work types, so the categories that you have in the work tab. They're exactly the same thing. What the difference is that you can make your own. You can either add entire work types, so smithing, or you could say, okay, I only want to have weapons in here, or making weapons in here, and I want hunting in here. That's all. And this is actually broken at the moment because it's not creating it. There should be a button there for it, and you should be able to rename it and whatever. I guess this one is it. And then you can just click and drag it. Then you can just click and drag it. There you go. You can click and drag it. Clearly it's not quite ready yet. So yeah, so the priority here is, instead of having a number in a column, it's just the left-right order. So you can move these around for each pawn. That is the idea, the basic theory behind it for like the per pawn kind of thing. I also still want to make a different mode where you can make a Gantt chart. It's a sort of a Gantt kind of chart, so that you can actually put it on a 24-hour kind of thing. Standard panel shows you how good your pawn is in it and if it can perform the job. You can make a pure mad scientist profession. Yeah, you can make whatever profession you want and then add it to your pawns. Yeah, and it can be different for everybody. I think it would quickly get tedious if you had to do this for 20, 30 different pawns. So we would need some kind of good, either a group system so that you can give pawns. Yeah, that you can give like orders to an entire group of pawns. But thinking about that, you don't even need that, because you could just like say, okay, this is my basic thing. Like everyone does firefighting, plant cutting, bed resting, whatever. And then this is like your base thing. So you call that, I can't give it a name because that crashes the mod at the moment, but you call this like your base level and you just add that to everybody. But yeah, there's a lot of ways you can go there. And what I also want to do is it's a different way of doing the timed priorities that I'm doing at the moment with the normal work tab. Is doing it like in a Gantt chart like thing, so that you have you can have like these overlapping. Yeah, what is a good example of it? I guess this. So here they're talking about like different people doing different jobs, but then the rows would be different jobs, I guess. And the where this is about months and days, that would be about hours in the day. But how will you deal with pawn that can't haul, etc.? You just don't let them have that job, or if you give them a job that has multiple things in it, you put like an extra icon on it that says like, okay, you're not allowed to do this or something. I think that's already set up here actually. So if we look at the normal work tab, yeah, Daniels can't do hauling or cleaning. So if we try to give him hauling, it won't let us, and he doesn't already have it. Like you can see them highlighted when I'm over it, and he doesn't have cleaning either. I'm not sure what happens if we create a new one with that. So if we create a new one with firefighting and patient, which he is allowed to do, and hauling in it, yeah, then he is allowed to do that, but it has an icon already that says like, okay, Daniels is not allowed to do hauler. So it has a special icon in it that says like, okay, he's only partially able to do that job. So this is, in essence, kind of workable. I had to rip out the actual working parts though, so it's not actually hooked up to anything. This is just a user interface at the moment, because the hooking it up to the actual priority system was kind of broken. I'm sure I can fix that, because that is not, it's I've done that before with the other work tab. It's basically the same thing. But yeah, I would need to do that again. But yeah, I'm probably going to continue with this, because honestly it looks a lot better. I remembered it looking a lot worse, and I actually got a lot further with it, and it looks a lot better than I remembered it. So I may work on that again sometime soon, probably. I'm going to stop the stream now. Made some good progress today. So the priority zone is basically in a phase where we can always release it, almost release it. I want to do some quick research and look at which other mods target the same functionality, so which will likely be broken. So we know about prison labor, but I can have a look at any other mods that use the same functions and see if we can do something about it, or at least let them know, like, okay, what can we do to make this happen? And I want to look at like making a designator kind of thing here, so that the we have a quicker way of setting those priorities, because going in here and setting priority is annoying as fuck. But yeah, other than that, it seems to be working at the moment, so that's good. I'm quickly going to push that for the pre-release, and yeah, you can play around with it a little bit if you want, and I'll also put it on the Ludian forums for those people to play around with. It's been fun. Thank you guys for hanging around. I'll be here again probably next week, Tuesday. We have to move house a little bit because they're going to do some building in our house. So we have a temporary different home where I'll set up like a basic streaming thing probably. But I will be moving around in the weekend. So. All right. So have a good evening, weekend, whatever the time is over there, and thank you guys for hanging out. It's been fun. Bye bye.